Hello again, my name is Nola and I'm coming to you from Australia. This is about our 5th week of Peace Bites, and it's interesting. In Australia we're going through a lot of changes where people are pushing back regarding the social distancing and avoiding crowds and things. It's a really interesting way of discovering what human nature is all about. And one of the things that I've noticed in particular is as people are pushing back, they're actually becoming quite selfish and they're getting very pushy about things. Now, yesterday I spoke about when to push and when not to push, and when the pushing energy comes out, it's a very negative, very self-focused energy sometimes, usually, but not all the time. And at the end of that Peace Bite, I talked about how it's important to, if you feel the need to push and accentuate something, then do it with the right intention and with a good vibe. And I suppose this Peace Bite today, whilst I'll be reading from my second book, which is about male-female relationships and women actually empowering themselves for more constructive relationships, it really is not gender specific. This is the pushing and the forcefulness of relationships is probably our biggest Achilles heel. Humanity really needs to take a look at itself, in my opinion, and I think that we're heading down the wrong kind of path if we think that exerting power is the only way to achieve outcomes. So I'm going to be reading from my second book, which is From Premenstrual Syndrome to Positive Mental Attitude. It's a change management guide for women and men. And in one of the parts of the book, there's a chapter called Living Life with Love and Without Force. And it's all about finding that balance in relationships. From my observations of others, my own experience in love-based relationships, including de facto and legal marriage partnerships, and my experience in relationships with family and friends, the words that come to mind to illustrate the most critical aspect in the success of personal relationships are power and balance. Achieving balance is like walking a fine line at times, a bit like a trapeze high wire. Our relationships may be constantly confronted with disappointments, misunderstandings, losses, and betrayals at the same time as we're managing major wins and successes, achieving clarity of thinking and action, realizing personal growth, and simplifying life. No wonder it's challenging to find balance. While our bodies work to maintain homeostasis, our hearts and minds are working overtime to keep decision-making and risk management as accurate as possible. Without a more rounded understanding of our own personal power and how to use that more effectively to achieve a win-win, and our partner doing the same, the less easily we'll manage any imbalance. The more out of balance the relationship, the more unequal the expectations, and or the more determined one is to have power over the other, the more rocky the outcome will be. Personal power, when used wisely and to the best of our ability, without underhanded motives and hidden agendas, will not always give us what we want, but it will open our eyes to a different way of relating. Whilst ever you feel that your partner or potential partner is manipulating an outcome that's not of mutual benefit, or things are done in a way that's not open and transparent, then the negative forces will work against you to achieve the outcome sought. Now, when I talk there about the manipulating, remember that no one can manipulate you unless you allow yourself to be manipulated. Manipulation occurs when the person who's receiving the message isn't sure in their own mind. Think about that. You cannot be manipulated unless you are unsure in your own mind. You're being indecisive. You haven't made your mind up. So manipulative tactics can be applied by people, but the recipient of the manipulation will only be manipulated if they're unsure in their own mind. Living a life without force is not about being airy-fairy and non-decisive. It's about choosing to remove those factors which create a negative imbalance, or in some cases the actual people who create the negative karmic undercurrents, and choosing to live a simple and uncomplicated life where relationships are easy and unforced. To get to this point, you must have spent time getting to know a person. You can't possibly expect to know someone through written words only. Feeling a person's energy, being around them and observing, knowing, not just perceiving how they are and will be in different scenarios, are all part of getting to know them. You can't truly get to know someone in isolation from them, and as they grow and change in their journey, and you haven't been there to see the changes firsthand, how on earth can you say that you know them at all? The simplest analogy I can draw here is where an adult child meets their biological parent for the first time since childhood separation. Oftentimes traumatic, this situation also provides the perfect opportunity to walk from that initial foundation, using strong intuition as the guide and taking things at a pace both can tolerate. When couples part and then come back together years later, what do they use as a foundation going forward? They use the good memories, leave the past hurt behind, and work from that first encounter, however long ago, as the building block for the future. I've seen that work many times quite successfully, and it's always the foundation of friendship, trust, and caring that helps them achieve the coming together at a time in the future that is right. Living life with love and without force is about being compassionate and caring towards the person you are with. Living with force, with hidden agendas, or looking for ways to disempower the other will only lead you down a destructive path. Is that what you really want? The most effective use of your personal power in a relationship is therefore one where forces feel equal, no one feels disempowered or disadvantaged, and a win-win has taken place. Both parties live together without force and with loving undercurrents. Living life with love and trust and without any kind of power imbalance is the foundation stone critical to a mutually rewarding long-term relationship. I hope you've found some worth in those words, and I'll put the front of this book at the end of the video so that you have that for reference. I trust you have a really great week and you can find balance in all of your relationships at every level. Good night. Bye for now.